My name is Bart. I'm a co-founder of the software, and I'm happy to answer all your questions today. And what I suggest to do is for those that would want to join me on this collaborative session, I encourage you to try to use this code here in the corner. On my screen, you can see the code, the connection code. You can try to use this code either using your Explain Everything on Android or iOS device, or alternatively, you can use our website here. I'll show you how. If you go to explaineverything.com, and I'll see a mobile version of this website, but nevertheless, there is a place to enter the code. So if you put the code in here, you will be able to connect to the session even without having an account on our cloud. So try to do that. I encourage you to do that because this is hands-on, and let's try to figure things out together. So I'll be waiting for those that want to join. I see the list of participants of this session also in the top right corner here. For now, it's just me, but I'm happy to see more of you joining. The other thing you can do if you want to ask questions, you can use chat on Zoom and just put your questions in text there so we can respond using Explain Everything, but also you can watch us doing, responding to questions and doing things on Explain Everything. You can watch that on Zoom. The session will be recorded, so you'll get the recording of what we're about to show here. It's for later reference. And I see first participants joining. Welcome. First thing to notice is that those that join through the web, they're usually explainers here. I guess some of you will use iOS devices. So if you have already a login, your nickname will be visible here. When you're using a browser, make sure to use Chrome browser instead of Safari. That's the reason for that is that Explain Everything is optimized for Chrome. We still do have some issues with Safari, so sometimes it's breaking up, and we don't want that during the session. So make sure to use Chrome for the connection. Is going to be just for now better experience. But we'll make sure that Explain Everything works on any web browser in the future with no problems. Fantastic. And the other thing is that because this session is devoted to your questions, we'll be mainly focusing on answering them. If you'd like us to provide you with an overview of what the platform can do, you can subscribe to the other webinar that we have. Let me show you. It's called Essentials. So if you look at the bottom of the page, we should have somewhere here information about the webinars where you can register to the Essentials. I'll check out here. It's under the link webinars that is visible here. So what I can do, I can put that out for you. Of course, you went through this path already, but you registered to hands-on webinar. That's today. But here you can reserve a spot to Essentials, which is 25 minutes long, and we sort of walk through the entire experience of Explain Everything, showing step by step what you can do with the platform. So that's a nicely prepared material. There is also a Q&A session during that webinar. So I encourage you to also try that. And and let's do one thing more before we begin. Please put your questions as text objects, as I do here. Somewhere here, please put your questions here. So please use your explain. Oh, that's too thick. please use your explain everything to provide me with your suggestions, what you want to learn today. And I'll be happy to go one by one. And I'll be happy to go one by one and answer them and perhaps demonstrate how to achieve what you want to achieve using explain everything. And before we begin that, I'll give you some time to put in your questions before we begin to answer them. Let's have a look at this map. That is our learning guide. In preparation, it's not yet ready. This is something we'll share soon as a downloadable project for those that want to learn about elemental skills required to use explain everything proficiently. This is a map that sort of illustrates what is there to be learned. And so far, it lists like 68 skills. It's going to expand, although of course aiming at intuitive use, we sort of have like an internal goal to narrow down number of required skills. But this is like a master level. If you know all of that, you're a master and explain everything. And what is there to know? There are, if you look at it, areas where you can use explain everything to visualize your thinking. And this set of skills here is devoted to that. There is an area of using media, like, putting on your PowerPoint to the canvas or using PDF to explain yourself, and skills to use those documents or images or videos are like listed here. There is a set of skills to capture, record on the canvas, because we're unique in a regard that we do have this very powerful recording functionality in explain everything. So we kind of have list of skills here. And of course, sharing for feedback. So once you have your project ready, if you want to share it as a video, or even as a document or project, editable project, there is a set of skills for that. And today we're collaborating, and it also means a separate set of skills. So we're listing those here. So for those that are interested in downloading such a guide that will in the future come with videos illustrating all of those skills, but for now this is just text. For those that are interested, let us know on the by providing feedback to this webinar, or perhaps you can also put your comments in the chat window of this webinar so we know to whom we should provide this material afterwards. Okay, so let us begin. All right. I'm a school teacher and I use explain everything with my classes. It would be great to show my students how to research web pages more efficiently. It seems currently that websites only give a snapshot rather than scrolling, highlighting on the website. Is it possible? Sort of. I mean, I'll try to explain how websites, how browser works and explain everything, because this is, once you understand the limitations and what is possible, it will be easier for you to allow students to research websites and use websites in their projects. So this is a good example here. I used browser to browse our website, and I can kind of tap, or let me show you my taps and moves on the screen. I'll use the option to display on-screen taps and gestures. So once I'm tapping somewhere, you see this bubble here above the browser now, that these are my taps on the screen. So if I tap the browser, I activated it, and I can kind of scroll my website and go through the links that are on the website. Everything I do in the browser would be recorded if I use recording functionality. So if your students, let's say, use explain everything in a way that they record what they do, everything will be captured. Although once it is stored as a recording, this content of the window here will be a set of snapshots. Also, if someone else would want to activate this website now, that won't be possible. The reason for that is that we need to maneuver here a situation where other users are getting the stream of what I'm doing here in my live browser. So for me, it is a browser. But for those that join me on a session, it is a set of snapshots. So if you're using web browser, and you connect to my session, and within the session, there's a browser, you basically see the snapshots of me streaming what's happening inside my browser. Technically, we cannot do a web browser within the web browser. That's why we stream snapshots. So in order to activate this for other users that are using web, that will be impossible and it's forbidden by the technology. So if you think about it, if your students use iPads, they can create this object. They can even add more browsers and explore different websites. And it's done primarily for the purpose of users to pick up from the websites what they require. So for example, if I would be exploring website here and I would want to use, let's say, this success story in the middle, I can choose the Cutout tool and just take a part of it, which becomes as a separate object now, and use it in my presentation. So that's the primary use. And for others that collaborate with me here, this stream of snapshots is also limited by the bandwidth of connection. So sometimes it might be on a Zoom, it's quite fluent. If you look at the Zoom, there's no delay in the movement. But in collaboration, it might be. And therefore, we created this button here that allows you to update the latest snapshot that was created for participants to view. Snapshot. So this triggers creating a snapshot if, let's say, a browser did not refresh on the receiver's end. So yes, there are limitations in using the browser, and we're looking forward to make it more intuitive because not everyone understands that we're kind of streaming snapshots and only a host of collaboration is using a browser. And that's why I understand it's a bit tricky. I hope that was a full answer to your question. Let me know if it is. If not, I'm able to dive deeper into that. No problem. Let's look at the question coming from Leonard. Is there a place where I can see the set of 68 Umina skills? I believe I joined a minute or two after you started. How do you use the Cutout tool when you add a browser? Okay, so this set of tools is visible here. This is like a low resolution version, but you can use the zoom tool. Look at the bottom of my screen on a Zoom window. There's a scale tool, and you can use the ninja mode here in order to look at different part of the canvas without moving every participant's view, without changing every participant's view. And by this mode, you can browse around and learn more. And of course, you won't see much because of the resolution. I decided not to add the entire map to the session, just to give you an overview of what we're preparing. And if you like, we can provide you with a project that will be fully scalable, and you'll be able to look at all details and perhaps even watch some videos that we already created. So this is definitely going to be available for you, as we've heard that for some users, it's going to be a good support to provide instructions to others how to explain everything. So definitely, it's going to be a project for you to download. So you'll have a local project for your use. How do you use the Cutout tool when you add a browser? Well, Cutout tool actually works on everything. You can cut out any part of the canvas, not only browser. So if I use Cutout tool on your question, I can, let's say, take only your name here, and this is going to be a copy of your name. It's important to notice that Cutout tool is actually kind of replicator. It copies what is visible on the screen. So if browser is visible, you can kind of select which part of the screen is going to be replicated, and that's it. So let me replicate this part here as this. And there's also a nice hint, or let's call it a trick. There are modes to this cutout or replicated tool. So you can select this mode, and instead of using previous selection, you can free select. So for example, here I'm drawing around those objects, just select this part of it. Okay, or if I want to, I can select when using those levels, I can select just 2 rectangles from the group of 5. And of course, once I did it, this is an object. So I kind of like decided not to include level 4, but instead cut out level 5 and 3. I think that's quite useful. We use it a lot. And I believe this is useful to move things around and even export things. So for example, if I want to export out of this huge canvas already, if I want to export just this object, I can easily do it. So after cutting out, I can just select it with Inspector and export it like that. And I can save the image. And by this, in my photo roll, only image of what I selected was saved. Okay, sorry, there was a question about the code again. So the code is CK, oh, that's the code. The code to connect. Yeah, let me see if it's right. Yeah, that's right. All right, moving on to another. Okay, and let me know, Leonard, if you're happy with the question. If yes, leave a tick mark. If no, just write what I can explain better. Hi, we are new to this tool. Can you please explain the basic use of the tool? Of course, but that's what our other webinar is for. It's called Essentials. And I just mentioned at the very beginning that it is like 25-minute long introduction, what you can do with the tool. So I would suggest to watch that one, register and watch and explore the tool together with us. But short answer to your question is that Explain Everything has been created in order to provide you with a tool to basically visualize, think in it, and explain everything. I know it's cyclical, but for us, it supports sharing of knowledge if you are capable of visualizing the thoughts. So it's not a tool to provide presentations, although you can provide presentations. It's not a tool to record tutorials, although you can record tutorials. This is like a cross-section of the existing technology of the things that could record, capture, allow you to draw and visualize things. And you can at best see during this webinar, there are no limits to the expression to the expression methods I can employ here to drive the point home. And what I suggest to do to explore possibilities better is to use our website. And actually, I'm already on the section Explore, Explain Everything. Under this address, you're able to look at basics, tips and tricks, and suggestions for work and for school, and also events where we participated. So here you'll find a lot of information related to Explain Everything. So for example, if you're interested in how to do the visual notes, there is a great material that was published to YouTube where you can learn about methods that one of our co-founders uses when sketchnoting during the meetings. Or other example, I'll just move this browser a bit to have access to the buttons. Or whiteboarding meetings. So if you want to watch video, how to meet on this platform without even Zoom, you can do that watching this 8-minute long tutorial, how to connect and how to work with collaborative session as the session we have now. So I encourage you to try and see our Explore section. And if you like it, leave a comment or contact us if there's something you think it's missing. But we think this tool is like a powerful enough for you to make your exchange more visual, regardless if you're presenting to the team, brainstorming with a group of people, or even trying to clear out your thinking yourself, because we usually see people also trying to put the things on a canvas and sorting out connection between ideas, supporting divergent mode of thinking. So this is quite powerful, and sometimes for us as software engineers, co-founders, and people in marketing, we love to look at examples of how Explain Everything is used in practice by other users. We do have set of use cases that we try to support, although we never cease to be surprised by the ways how Explain Everything can be used in age range between 5 to 55, to be honest. So that's fantastic. Okay. Oh, and here's a question. It would be great to learn more about the Ninja Zoom functionality. I'm happy to show you some things around, with a caveat that we're going to actually change the Zoom tool altogether soon in order to make it more easy to use. So this tool here, this entire section, will be updated. For us even to, not to have to explain it by ourselves, because we are sometimes surprised how confusing we made it. So the update to this is coming, but that's in about a month or two. For now, let me tell you what is the most confusing thing that we see for users, is that the Zoom tool and the recording frame are kind of like mixed together in our current UI. So think of it that way. You have ability to pan around, right? Pan and zoom. And you have a frame where you can do the recording. And also, it is you watching something, and if you're in collaboration, other viewers as well. They can watch something else. They can pay attention to the different part of the canvas. And this is something that we try to express using the Zoom tool as well. So in order to maneuver those three functionalities and make it easy to pan around and set the certain part of canvas to be recordable if you use the record button here, and allow you as a host to have your users follow you, it's not easy at all. And that's why we created this Ninja mode in order to allow different points of view. So that's what Ninja is for. So for example, I'll try to show you who is watching what currently. So if I move out, and if you could look at the Zoom broadcast for a second, if I move out, zoom out here, I see this frame. There was a frame here when the Zoom tool is activated. That is the main Zoom. You see the frame is moving because one of the participants is moving this main Zoom. That is an area that would be captured if we use recording. So I can use my Ninja Zoom to zoom out and see different point of view, larger point of view. Why we call it a ninja? Because we know that ninjas were clever enough to sneak around without anyone noticing. So it's me now sneaking out of this main view to see a different perspective on scale map or entire picture. So that's basically what Ninja is for. But if I go to settings here, I'll try to display different participant views. Oh, here's an option, participant zoom frames. If I turn it on, I should be able to see your frames as well. I don't see it now. I don't know why, but let me try it again. Participant zoom frames. It might be that everyone is focused on this main zoom level, but let's look at it that way. Here, more or less here, that's what main zoom level encompasses. The main zoom level is if I press record, it will capture exactly that frame here. So you can imagine the situation where I want to record this frame, and while recording, focus somewhere in the corner of that frame to provide some more details. But I don't want to change the view that would be captured on a video. I just want to make it easier for me to, let's say, provide annotations only in the corner. And then I would use this ninja mode for. Yes, exactly. A tick. So that's what Ninja is for. What we'll provide soon is going to be a way to decouple your view from the camera frame, let's call it that way. So those two points of views will be manipulated differently. The point of view of on the canvas would be a zoom, and the camera frame will be manipulated with a new tool that you'll find close to the record button. So it's obvious that with this tool, you're just changing what is being captured instead of viewpoint. So that's soon to come. All right. Looking for more questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions on the canvas. Let me see on the chat window, is there anything there? All right. So I encourage you to add additional questions if you like. I'm happy to answer them because there are many things that are very practical in explaining everything, but we often see that these are not easy to understand on the first try, but are done on purpose. There is nothing that we create and explain everything that, oh, there's a new question, that was not deeply thought through. It's sometimes, the confusion that comes from UI is a result of us trying to approach things from a different angle to make it most efficient when you're using multi-touch display devices with multi-touch like this one. So I'm using 5 fingers to show things at the same time. Those things were not possible with mouse and keyboard some time ago, but now we're kind of like exploring possibilities of those devices and screens that they offer. Do you have bilingual keyboard? Since I am a Spanish teacher, the keyboard is a function of the system. So yes, you can have bilingual keyboard, and I can show you this on my screen. So if I try to tap here, I can change. If you look at my screen, I can change languages. I'll take a screenshot of that. using a button on my keyboard. And I do have Polish and I do have English for now. So this is something you can activate in settings of your device, either Android device or iPad. I'm using currently iPad. So this is something you can find in the settings. And if you go to keyboard, there are a lot of settings now, but keyboard is here under general, and you can add additional keyboards here. So that's the path. And I'll also put this to explain everything, to explain this better. So I'll come back to explain everything. I'll add this screenshot that I just made. Where is the question? It's here. So the answer is yes. And this is how you do it. You go here, and then you go here, and then you can change your keyboards with a key on the screen or on physical keyboard. I'm currently using physical keyboard, but this will also display on your virtual keyboard on the screen, and it's a button on the lower left. Nice and easy. And as you see here, I'm currently trying to move it away, but I cannot move the entire group. Do you know what to do about it? I'll show you one trick. I can select, because everything we have on Canvas is a set of objects. So I can select, using inspector tool here, those objects and group them together here in this section, edit. I can group them together. And that will be okay. They will move together as a group, but there's a great trick that I'd like to teach you now. So if you have a situation that those objects are not grouped, I can group them with triple tap. I tap it 3 times and see, they are already a group. I tap it 3 times again, and I disconnected this part of the group. But I can again tap it 3 times and connect it again. So this is a fast and easy way to connect your objects. So let me show you one more time, because I think this is underrealized feature for many, but very useful when you try to be proficient with Explain Everything. So I do have 2 objects now. Who wants to join them together by tapping on this area? There are some. All right. Congratulations. That's the way to do it. Try to disconnect them perfectly. So that's a nice trick. Anything else you find confusing that I can talk about and explain why we did it so? Feel free to ask questions also on chat if you're not connected to the collaboration. I see there are participants that are just watching our broadcast on Zoom. That is okay. So then you can use the Zoom webinar chat in order to ask questions. Can that 3-tap tip work for objects not on top of each other? Unfortunately not. Those objects has to have the the section that is, the common for those. So no, but the objects that are in the distance, let's say I create 2 squares again. If I have this situation, I can always use inspector and join them as such, and disconnect them with inspector as well. Also, it's worth noting that we made Explain Everything that it groups objects automatically. So for example, if you write on top of the object, and if you finish writing, this object sticks to the square underneath. And it's done so because we actually automatically group them together. These are still separate objects that you can, with triple tap, ungroup. And group with this one, let's say. So annotations work that way. So some things that you'll just do on explain everything will allow auto grouping, and this is something that that can be configured if you don't like this functionality. You can set it here in the settings. We have this auto grouping drawings. So if I turn it off and I write on top of this one, that's going to be text number 2, it will not stick to the object. But by default, those texts will stick because we do have this feature on by default. Okay, new question. Is your writing going to be converted to text? Certainly at some point of time, we will allow that. For now, writing is not converted to text, although there are solutions that do that. Because Explain Everything is used in so many languages, it would not be possible for us at the moment to make it perfect, and would like to have a good experience of convert text to writing to text conversion. At some point in time, we'll be able to provide that as well. And honestly, I'm very much looking forward to that. As myself, I would use it a lot. Right, okay, so what is there also that might be surprising for you? I don't know if you know how to use the fill tool, because this is quite interesting. Let me show you. It's a simple fill tool here that I can fill area with a new color. Let's say I fill this rectangle with red color, right? It's red, cool. And I'll fill it with yellow now. But I'll show you how we did it, because this is surprising and has consequences. So when you fill the object with color, we actually add additional object on top of it. And we can ungroup this hierarchy of object that was created after my filling with color. And you see that the original object is underneath and has red color and yellow color that I added later. So that means that filling with color is not destructive at all. You can fill area with color and then move this new color that you just put on the canvas and use somewhere else. So for example, if we want to create, let's say, a gray version of the Chrome icon, crazy example, but let's do that. I'll try to create a gray color, okay. And let's fill those elements, right? It's a gray icon. I can ungroup this group and take only objects that I created when filling with color. And look at that. In no time, I created a gray icon of this icon that is also transparent. And this is a trick we often use when working on materials for Explain Everything. It's just easier for us to work on things that way instead of using like graphic designer tools. We use those tools later on in the process, but when we're trying to do a quick draft or mock-up, this is one of the tricks that we use that you might find useful as well. Okay, looking for more questions. Can you number each box with a number? I use a software called Snagit, which has this feature. Let's say you want to show someone a series of steps. Yes, of course. Yeah, and you can do that. There are two ways to do it. So you can either create a text object that will be filled with color. Let's say I'll do a text box filled in red. So that's going to be text box. Okay. Stroke white, fill red. Stroke white. So that's a text box that is filled with color, and you can number it. Let's say let's do it differently. I'll put a text box here that will be transparent with a number, let's say 1. Okay. So now I have 2 text boxes, right? And I can put one on top of the other, group them together, and this is a text box that I can use, add initial text, but it will stick with this number that I put here in the top right corner. We don't have functionality to, if you do another text box, to increase index of those boxes. If that's the feature of Snagit, I'm not familiar with Snagit, but it's definitely possible for you to number boxes that way. And it's in fact something that I used when I was creating this map here. You have boxes with numbers. Can you create a puzzle of an object where all, I don't know if we can scroll this text here. It's used by one of users, so I cannot actually scroll it until the user that is using this box here switches the tool to, let's say, hand. Can you create a puzzle of an object where all of the pieces fit perfectly if they were cut away? I know about examples of puzzles created for students, even kindergarten kids, that were made in a way that elements fit perfectly together. I'll try to show you a few things that you can use in order to create such puzzle, but I'm not prepared with examples. That's a good thing. Maybe for the next time I can do that. But let's say I want to create a puzzle where I have, again, I love squares and rectangles, those elements, and they should be perfectly, let's say, aligned. What I can do is I can use this align button feature here for perfect alignment on the button, right? So again, I can undo this. They're not aligned. I select them. I'll select this text object away because I don't want to align it together with my boxes here. And I press align button. So that's one thing. I can align objects perfectly that way. But also then I can use a lock here in order to lock position of those objects. So let's say I can lock their vertical movement and lock rotation and lock scale. And by this, I'll create a situation where those boxes can move only that way. So now you can imagine how powerful it is when you try to create puzzles where elements sort of align perfectly. So I can create a puzzle. I'll replicate this red box here, and I'll try to move it in a different direction. But just change the color of that. So I want this yellow square to align perfectly with red. So I would select both and do the alignment to the right. Yep, they are perfectly aligned. And let's say I want to lock the horizontal movement for this one, lock rotation, and scale. So no one can scale up or down this object. And now I have this situation. Those objects move like this, and this object moves like that. There's actually, you can download a set of games and puzzles, mathematical puzzles created and explain everything. For the next session, I'll be ready with a link, but Google them online and you'll find very interesting ways of how this simple set of possibilities has been put to practice when creating a set of puzzles for kids for math lessons. All right. Looking for questions, we still have some time. I encourage you to ask some more. And there's one more question coming. This is a kind of nice looking project already. Is it possible to have a graph paper in Explain Everything? Yes, we do have such things in Explain Everything, but I must add one caveat is that the templates that allow you to put a different pattern as a background, they work on iOS and will be rolled out to different platforms soon. But I'll show you how to change, how to do the graph paper in Explain Everything. I'll use a new slide for that. And when I create new slide, you can select this. Let's select this custom color here. And what you see is that I can select color of my background. That's good. Maybe this should be a yellow background. And I have a possibility of choosing pattern here. So those that are on collaboration won't see what I'm doing now to set the background for a second slide. So I encourage you to look at the Zoom broadcast. So in Zoom, you'll see what I see on my screen when setting this background. And here I'll try to choose pattern that I want. So I can choose between horizontal lines, vertical lines, or even grid lines, or perhaps even set of points. But let's say I go with the grid lines. And this slider on the bottom of the screen allows you now to change the color of the grid. So let's say I want those to be red, or maybe just black, maybe just black. And when I press done, I just created a second slide with this pattern. And now I can be very much more precise when doing those squares, because I can do them perfectly aligned to this grid. And also when I scale this grid, it will kind of like, you need to be aware, because this is an infinite canvas, and this pattern will sometimes be tricky if you use scale a lot, but we made it in a way that it should stick to your, you see, to your square here. So if you zoom in, it will change. If you zoom out, it's a weird feeling, to be honest, but it's quite useful if you stick to a certain scale. So definitely, yes, you can do that. Is it possible as an insert? Sort of. I mean, what I can do is that I could, let's say, use this grid lines here as an object that I can insert on any slide. So I'll do the following thing. I'll try to copy this pattern here as taking a screenshot that I would use as an object on a different slide. And the way I can do it is that I can add it from the camera roll. So you can basically add any. This is not clear now because I'm using the same color. So I'll change the background. I'll change the background to white. So this is an object that I just put in. You can basically take any page layout that you like, download it from internet and put to Explain Everything. And the way to easily add it to the canvas I would do it with clip arts. So let me show you. You select something using inspector, and you add this to the clip art. So in this edit section, you have add to clip art option. Once I do that, on any slide I am, let's say I go back to this first slide, and I will remove this pattern now. We don't want any pattern anymore. If I'm on this slide and I want to use my background, I can always add it from here as my custom clip art. So I currently have just one. You can think of much more, but when I tap it, here it is. And now I can explain. Or if I need another one, here it is. That's one idea, of course, but you can be much more creative. All you need to do is to put the layout that you like, even from outside of explain everything. So let's say, that's what I like. I'll take this image to the canvas. I can easily put it to the clip art, as I did before. And now in my clip arts, I do have also this layout here that I can use at any point of time. Fantastic. Can you show the ruler feature again that I saw on another EE video? Yes, of course. It's kind of hard to find, and we'll try to improve experience of using ruler in the future. But for now, let me demonstrate this to you. So you can write using this pen tool here, right? It opens this another set of icons that makes it possible to choose color or thickness, but also here you have ability to use, instead of just pen, a pencil that works like this, and ruler. So I'll go with pen and ruler now. And the ruler is only visible when you're using the draw tool here. If I choose like razor now, I won't see my ruler. So when you have the ruler on the screen, any of your touches on the screen on the ruler would make it possible to move ruler around. You can grab it with 2 fingers and then rotate the ruler like this. And because I do have this draw tool activated, I can now draw straight lines with the ruler. Funny thing I mentioned about this fill tool, I'll show you how funny things you can do using ruler and pen now, because I'm about to fill in those spaces with different colors. Yeah, and also, oh, this is interesting. Do you know why that happened? It's a tricky question, but once you understand the arrangement of objects in Explain Everything, it's quite obvious what took place here. So when I was creating with the fill tool those additional objects, there was a new one created by other user, this one, that took space underneath those objects. So effectively, when I was trying to fill in the space, it created an object that automatically was grouped with this line here. And that's why we have this situation here. So I can improve this situation. I can correct it. I'll tap undo in order to put my fillings into space. And now all I have to do is to ungroup this line from my objects. So I use inspector and I tapped on the line, and you see with those boxes that 4 objects are within this group. And I can just ungroup this line that I don't want in this group by tapping line alone. So again, I'll use inspector I tap my objects that I want to be in the group. There should be 3, but I see this huge line here taking space just underneath those objects. So I tap this line again alone, I press ungroup, and I fixed this situation. Line moves alone, and my objects also as a single group here. So I think this is a trick that it's good to understand what happens when sometimes objects stick together in unexpected way. They do so because they do have those boundaries here. And if you draw anything inside those boundaries, those objects, as you already know, will stick together. So let me demonstrate that, and I'll take out the ruler now. If I draw something here, it should stick to this line, although it's outside of the line. So let me see if that's true. Yes, that's true. In order to detach it, I tap Inspector. I tap this single object that I want to detach. You see the options that I have when I touch this, either both objects or just this one. Because I want to detach this single object, I press ungroup, and I'm good. Okay. So I hope you liked this session. We do have like 3 more minutes, so if there is a last question that I can answer, I'm happy to. And if there are more questions in the future, you can always contact us using support. You can also sign up for another webinar. We will be providing those hands-on webinar later on as well. It is a vacation season, but those will come. If you don't see them on our agenda, on our schedule, currently they will appear eventually. So I encourage you to check that. And here we have the final question. If you have a circle with 4 quarters, can you add photos that will fit each quarter? A circle, huh? With a square, that would be easy. With a circle, yes, you could. Yeah, you could. So it's a tricky question, but I like that a lot. Therefore, I'll show you how to do that, how I would design that. But this is like, a challenging thing. So what I would do is that first I would create an object, and then I would create a circle in the middle. And I'm just preparing now stuff to make it possible. So there's an object, there's a circle in the middle. I'll take the border out. We don't need a border. And now I'll fill this with gray, so you see what's happening. Okay, I will ungroup this. Now I have this artificial object that is my mask that I created, and you see it's empty in the middle. Okay, so I don't need that anymore. I'll delete it. So I do have this artificial object. This mask could be, of course, white, so you won't see the difference. That might be what you want to do. But for now, I'm doing it as a gray mask, so you see what's happening. So it's empty in the middle, and we want to have 4 pictures that will fit each other. Yes, so I would add a placeholder that will allow you to put a picture in. So placeholders would allow you to put pictures. And of course, you can have 4 placeholders. So those placeholders, oh, I made 3, so let me duplicate the placeholder again. Those placeholders, as we've seen, can be aligned perfectly. Let's say I will align those 2 and also this to the left, and also this to the right, and this to the top. So I have perfect alignment of the placeholders. And now I can use my mask. Let's say I want to do it that way, and put the mask to the front. Okay. So now if I put any picture here by just tapping, let's say I make myself a photo. No. Okay. And of course, this can be aligned perfectly, and I can do it 4 times, but for now, I'll just duplicate this photo 4 times. And let's say alignment is still here. We can put that up to the front and have the effect of 4 quarters, 4 pictures aligned perfectly. So that's how you could basically do it. And when you do this as white, you see what happened now. When I was filling the color, it kind of like interfered with pictures underneath, but that's still okay. That's a cool effect that we have. So yes, those things are possible. We saw moving clocks created and explain everything, moving pictures, because you can make objects scroll. There are crazy things you can do with explain everything. Let me just show you one thing around. I'll make this icon here scroll. So I encourage you to explore more about explain everything. So those skills that I'm showing you today are not still on the map, but we will include any trick that there is to the software in the later version of the map. So we're happy to get your feedback, what you find interesting, and what you would want to explore further in the future, so we can provide more let's say, streamlined webinars, as we can focus, let's say, on just recording or just creation in the later webinars. So that's why feedback from you is so important for us. Thank you very much for watching. It was my pleasure to present Explain Everything to you. We're always fascinated with your questions and your use cases, so please share with us what you were able to do after the webinar. It will be super helpful and super encouraging looking at your creations and your ideas that are kind of like, a result of this webinar. So that would be great if you could share these things with us in the future. But for now, I wish you a great time and good vacation season, and I hope to see you soon next time. Thank you.